Welcome back to Football Game Plan Scout Team here on the Game Plus Network. I'm Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook. You talk about defense in the FCS, you want to talk about the Colgate Raiders. And they have a guy along their defensive line that has been outstanding so far in his career and has his eyes set on the NFL. And that guy is Nick Wheeler, defensive lineman from the Colgate Raiders. Pass rusher, defensive lineman, because you're a unique case, man. You're listed at 6'2", 255, which some would consider to be maybe an undersized defensive end, yet you found yourself in the backfield a ton. 54 and a half TFLs for your career, about 33 sacks. You've been able to get the job done playing at your height. So let's take that question and break it into two parts. First part is, how are you able to consistently have that success with a perceived disadvantage at your position? And also, how have you been able to succeed at your size, considering that you're getting outweighed by at least 40 pounds every matchup each and every Saturday?
First, I just want to thank the coaches. I mean, they have a really great scheme. The scheme that Coach Paul Schaffner puts into play, it allows us to just go out there and just focus on our assignment. And if we do our assignment, it allows us to play great football. And then one thing that we really teach is attitude and effort. If you have great attitude and you give really great effort, then the results will show. And that's just the one thing I try to go out there and focus on, just going out there and flying around to the football. Whether it was I had to go through a guy, go around a guy, didn't really matter, or just trying to go out there and just make some plays for the coaching staff. And as far as being outweighed, I mean, that's something that we work on. Is my D-line coach, Coach Josh Eisen, tells me all the time that a great part of my game is just me going out there and me using my speed. So that was one thing that I really tried to focus on this past spring, was just increasing my speed and increasing ways that I can use speed to my advantage. And it's just been great for me throughout my whole career.
Yeah, your head coach, Dan Hunt, is one of the best coaches in the FCS and does a great job in game planning, game in, game out. He can't say enough good words about you as a leader, as a player. He talks glowingly about what you bring to the table. And because of that, when you look at how you play and, being a shorter defensive end on the edge, you use your hands really well. How important, in your opinion, is hand usage to really win consistently against the offensive lineman that you face?
Hand usage is key. I mean, at practice today, they told us that hand usage was the best thing that we could possibly do. And, I mean, that's just the one thing that we focus on. We practice it, I think. If we have a 25-minute individual, we'll spend 15 minutes on it, and just being able to keep the offensive lineman hands off of us and just using that to throw them off balance and take away the thing that they really need the most outside of great footwork and great hips is their hands. And if you can take their hands away, then, I mean, there's no way that the offensive lineman will be able to latch onto you. And if they can't latch onto you, then you should be able to just throw them off balance and get around them.
Now, I was at that Villanova game in week 0, I believe it was, where you guys hosted Villanova. And one thing I noticed then, and I started to see it throughout the course of the season, was how many different techniques you play. Sometimes you could play out there as a 9, as a 7. Sometimes you're playing as a true 5, maybe a 4-eye. Where do you see yourself best suited to play at the next level, and how have you been able to play so many different techniques while at Colgate?
At the next level, I see myself as a 3-4 outside linebacker, playing at the line of scrimmage, just setting the edge, just trying to keep the edge and play as physical as I can. As far as playing techniques at Colgate, the one thing that my coaches preached to me was using my size and my speed to my advantage. I mean, there are a lot of tackles that, they're the 6'6", 325, 330-pound tackles. Some of them move really well, but some of them don't move as well as coaches would like them to. So just using that to my advantage, knowing if I'm able to use my speed and get around guys, then I line up in a 9 or a 7. However, if I know guys have really good feet and they can move, but they're lacking some really good hand usage, then line up in a 5 and stay tight to them to try and get their hands off me and get around me. So the coaches, scheme-wise, kind of dictated where I lined up majority of the time, but in third down and pass rush situations, kind of just knowing and doing some scouting on the offensive tackles and knowing what their strengths and weaknesses are kind of dictated where I lined up.
Colgate is one of those places, man, where, guys don't get a lot of publicity and also don't get a lot of credit for what they do out there. You guys have produced quietly some really good defensive players over the course of last 4 to 5 years. But can you talk a little bit about how special of a place it is to play at Colgate? Because, it was a football power for a while, before, in the national scale before football got reorganized and things of that nature. And it slowly became a dominant force at the FCS level. Last year, you guys, I thought, was one of the more impressive defenses I've seen in decades. You guys had a historic performance, and how many shutouts you guys had. How special of a place is Colgate, and what does it take to play up there?
I mean, it's an amazing place to play. I mean, Coach Hunt does a really great job bringing in guys that he thinks are tough, physical, and guys that he thinks can play in any type of weather. I mean, my sophomore year, you saw us go out to Cal Poly and play in, I think, what was one of the hottest games I've played in to date. And you've seen us play in some really cold games where the JMU game, there was snow on the ground the day before. So, I mean, Coach Hunt recruits some really tough and really physical guys, and he recruits guys that don't really care where they play. It's just they just want to go out there and play and just do it the best that they can.
When you look at prepping for an opponent, I only know it from a running back's perspective. What I look at it, for linebackers and maybe a safety or so, what are you looking for when you talk about game planning for an offensive lineman? What specifics are you honing in on week to week to where you go out there on game day and able to excel?
It all starts from the moment they get to the line of scrimmage. You have wide view and tight view, so you watch both of those. But the main thing is to see what are the offensive linemen looking at when they're in their stance? What do their feet look like? What do their hands look like? Are they in a 3-point when it's always run? Are they in a 2-point when it's always pass? Just little keys to get your mind right on game day. And then when they actually snap the ball, is this guy aggressive? Is he passive? Is he quick on his feet in the pass game? Does he do a lot of short sets? Does he do a lot of long sets? What does he do against, some great pass rushers? What does he do against some average pass rushers? Stuff like that, just the little nuances that can help add an advantage to your game when you play on Saturdays.
We'll take a quick commercial break and be back with more Scout Team here on the Game Plus Network.
Man, it's that old thing, perseverance, consistency, hard work, my goal is to put the same work into, my businesses, my family that I put into football, and I've been running with that mantra since I got married back in 97, that if I'm going to have a successful marriage, I got to, the same hard work and same consistency and discipline I had on the football field, I got to put in my marriage and with my kids and with my businesses and all that. So it teaches you a lot, man. How to deal with your fellow man and not look at his color, but look at what he can do for the overall good of what you're trying to accomplish. So sports to me in general is just an incredible deal. When you talk about football specifically, because of the closeness of guys, I just believe it's an amazing sport.
Football Game Plan is brought to you in part by Ninth and Lux. Visit the website ninethandlux.com and check out the clothing gallery. Do You Music with featured artist IW and his latest album, Season 2. You can check that out on iTunes as well as doyoumusic.com. Nesby Phipps, art, life, entertainment. NesbyPhipps.com. Grind It Out Fitness. Visit the website grinditoutfitness.com and download the app. Welcome back to Football Game Plan Scout Team here on the Game Plus Network. As with any draft class, everyone has a unique story, a unique journey to their path to the draft. And one guy in particular in this draft class that has a unique story in how he went from Boise State to Duquesne is cornerback Reid Harrison-Ducros. I've seen a lot of your game at Duquesne. We cover a lot of the FCS here at Football Game Plan. You play in the NEC, underrated conference. In the FCS, you guys see a lot. You got your passing teams, you got your teams that love to line up and run the football downhill. Do you feel as though playing in the NEC and playing against those different styles of offenses kind of help prepare you for the NFL and what you're going to see?
Yes, I definitely do. Over the past 2 seasons at Duquesne, like you said, we played a different variety of offenses. More specifically, so like last year we played teams like Youngstown State, who ran the ball a lot. And then the year before we played Hawaii, who throws the ball a lot. And then also teams within the conference who mix it up as well. So I think it kind of gives you a good plethora of offenses to get accustomed to and yeah, just get accustomed to. So
Yeah, it's funny because you're very experienced with playing Hawaii, considering that you came from Boise State. Take me through that process of going to Boise State and then deciding, you know what, I'm gonna transfer out. But then you chose Duquesne, which is an interesting place to go from Boise State to Duquesne,
yeah.
because Duquesne is an interesting place playing in the NEC. Not a lot of people understand the solid football tradition that the Dukes have.
hmm Yeah, so I signed with Boise my 2016 senior season. And then right when I got there, actually the defensive coordinator, DB coach, and then a couple other people left right when I signed. So it was a new DC that didn't recruit me. He was in staff. And then so freshman year, I didn't redshirt, so I played a little bit. And then sophomore year, I started the first 4 games. And then kind of after we played Virginia, I didn't see any time on the field. And I think it's because, well, I know it's because the defensive coordinator wanted bigger bodies at the corner position. And it kind of made sense, I guess, because the Mountain West is more of a running style conference with like Air Force and like teams like that who really are run heavy. So he thought it was best for the team to have bigger bodies at the corner position. So I mean, it was a business decision on his end, and so I decided to make a business decision on my end. And then I decided to transfer, and it was funny because right when I got there, a senior quarterback from the Maryland area, Tommy Stewart, went to Duquesne, transferred out and went to Duquesne when I was a freshman at Boise. And so when I was transferring, he kind of told Duquesne about me, and then I kind of fell in love with the place. The coaches are great. It's in a great location, being in downtown Pittsburgh, and as well as the guys and the teammates are very welcoming. It's a very family-oriented environment. And yeah, it was cool. Also living on the East Coast, never done that before. So
Hey, you got a lot of the East Coast in Pittsburgh. It's like one of those cities where you're gonna get a lot of snow, a lot of cold. It's a tough city, and I'm pretty sure it has to, burn your grits when you hear guys say, "Well, we want big guys at corner because
yeah,
they'll be able to tackle." When you look at how you play and how you attack the run game, it's not like you're not not afraid to tackle and be a factor. You are a factor in the run game. You are physical as a corner. That's why we say at football game plan, size is not a skill. When you transferred, was that like the biggest chip on your shoulder? Like, man, I'm sick of hearing about this size thing. You're just gonna attack everything with the same level of aggressiveness that you have already done.
yes, totally. And going back to Boise, like when I started those first 4 games, I did really well. Like I was actually rated the top player on my team as a PFF, the PFF rankings that they give out. And so kind of going from being ranked that high or rated that high for my play to not playing, and then eventually having to transfer and making a business decision. Yeah, I was mad because I felt like I am a good tackler. Like I pride myself on being a sure tackler. Like I'll knock guys back, but like I'm not gonna miss a tackle. And I think that's the most important thing at being corner is doing your job and securing the tackle, which is what I pride myself on. So yeah.
Yeah, you look at the play of yourself at the cornerback position. I think you're very fluid. It reminds me a lot of listening to jazz. It's organized chaos. You got a lot of different things going on at the same time, but it all works well in unison. You're lockstep with receivers. You're able to transition out. Do you feel as though you're one of the more technically sound corners, or you feel as though that's a strength to your game? And if not, where do you feel as though your strongest attribute is playing the position?
Um, well, I guess yes to the first one. I pride myself on being a technician, and then I feel like my technique is my strongest suit, because I've been working on it since probably ninth grade. So I have a lot of years under my belt, as well as having a lot of mentors in my life helping me to be able to work on my technique and then continually improving it every year.
We'll take a quick commercial break and be back with more Scout Team here on the Game Plus Network. Football Game Plan is brought to you in part by Financial Coaching LLC, investment, retirement, security. Stewardship Credit, financial growth is in your hands. Stewardshipcredit.com. Adrienne Marie Photo, photographer, writer, management. AdrienneMariePhotography.com. Lock Multimedia. Welcome back to Football Game Plan Scout Team here on the Game Plus Network. Florida International's quarterback James Morgan is one of the more underrated QBs in this draft class. I had a chance to speak with him about his play and what makes him so underrated. Well, you're playing in the East-West Shrine Bowl this year. I was about to say Shrine Game, but they changed it to Bowl this year. But you're playing in the Shrine Bowl. Huge honor, and one of my favorite all-star events to attend each and every year. I'll be there next week to kick off the practices and things like that and staying through the game. How huge was it to get that invite for the Shrine, and how great of an opportunity is it to play in that bowl game?
It's a fantastic opportunity for me. Coming from FIU, the knock kind of, with everything is, okay, it's a smaller school, a group of 5 school. The competition isn't as good. And for me, it's a huge opportunity to be able to go out and showcase my stuff against elite competition. It's you can't use that excuse anymore when all these guys are here from all these Power 5 schools and all that stuff like that. So I'm really looking forward to it. Should be a great group of guys coming, and I'm really hoping to show off, my arm strength, my accuracy, my anticipation, really the NFL skill set against some great competition.
I hate that part of the way college football has gotten, because I played at University of Louisiana, Sun Belt School, right?
Okay.
And now at first it was okay, D1 AA, and we've gotten to a point where it's Power 5 now and Group of 5. They act as if where you play isn't tough, and where you guys are competing against doesn't have a lot of good talent. Can you explain to the people out there how good of the talent is in Conference USA, top to bottom?
Definitely. I think you look at the NFL and you see how many people have came from schools that aren't necessarily top, considered top tier college football schools. And it's really incredible the amount of, great competition that comes out of it. So it's definitely a very challenging conference. Coming out of high school, I'm sure a lot of people are thinking, okay, I want to go Power 5, but make no mistake about it, Conference USA and the MAC, which both of I've been associated with, are no joke. There's a lot of really great teams and great competition, and I would agree with you there. I think it's an unfair stigmatism that's given to those types of schools, and I think that you're seeing more of an evener, more even competition between those two, and we can attest to that with our win over Miami this year, which is a huge win for our program. But we think personally we have the respect, or that we can compete with teams like that and aren't necessarily given the respect, and so stuff like that is great for justification for that.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir here, because listen, the fact that you guys not only beat Miami but dominated that game just speaks volumes to the talent level that's at FIU. And you mentioned going from Bowling Green to FIU. What went into that process? And when you got to FIU, you became a record-setting quarterback. So take me through that process of going from Bowling Green to FIU and breaking records while you were there down there at Miami. You just didn't go down there and just be on a team. You went down there with a purpose and broke records.
Well, I think that a major part of that, to be honest with you, is just the family feel that FIU had. And that was something that was really appealing to me coming from Bowling Green, going to FIU, is I wanted to find a place where there was that tight-knit atmosphere and that family atmosphere. And I certainly found that with FIU. I was welcomed right away. Had to really earn my respect and try to do that by showing how hard of a worker I am and all that stuff. But ultimately got that respect and just was completely welcomed, really liked it. The other factors that went into that competition, that went into that decision were the coaching. Butch Davis, phenomenal coach, extremely blessed to have been able to learn under him for the last 2 years. And then the system of offense. I went from an air raid system at Bowling Green to more of a pro style, but still has a lot of spread principles, but definitely more control for the quarterback, more decision-making at the line of scrimmage, pre-snap, and then post-snap in terms of the structure of the reads and different things like side adjustments, hots. Had much more control over that at FIU. So all of those factors really played in, but couldn't have been happier with my decision. Really enjoyed my last 2 years.
Yeah, I like that you brought up the offense, because that's where I wanted to go next. And when you look at how you play, when I look at quarterbacks, I don't care about height, weight, arm strength, accuracy. Well, accuracy is important, but arm strength, all these measurable tools that people love to write down, is he afraid of pressure or is he not afraid of pressure? That's the biggest thing I look for. What I've noticed about you is that you're fearless as a passer. You work touchdown to check down. The game that really stood out to me this year that I caught live was the La Tech game. And La Tech got a Meek Robertson out there in the secondary. They got two other guys. They got the safety that played corner, L'Jarius Sneed, I believe. So they got some good dudes out there in the secondary. You had no fear of attacking those guys deep in coverage. Can you talk about that mentality to be fearless as a passer, and how critical is that to play the position, especially at the next level?
Sure. I think there's a couple different things that go into that. So Louisiana Tech was a great game. They had a great defense. You know, it was definitely a battle. I wish we could have came out on top of that game, but certainly felt really good going out and ripping it. And I think it's a real delicate balance, and it's something that, you know, I always have felt like I've had a strong arm. Growing up, I watched Brett Favre go out and just rip the ball, all these different, you know, positions, windows, and all that stuff. So for me, I always felt really confident throwing it in tight windows. And as I developed as a player, you know, you mentioned it. It kind of had to be a balance between, okay, I know I probably can make this throw right here, but it's pretty tight. The probability might be low. So maybe the better thing for the offense, the down and distance in the situation in the game, would be just to not go there and come back down to a check down. So it's definitely a balance. I mean, I really am confident in myself. I think I can make every throw on the field. But what I've gotten better at as I've gone, and what I still need to continue improving on, is, okay, I know I can make this throw, but what's best for the team for this situation? Let's check it down. Let's get 5 yards. Let's go forward. And I think, you know, in the La Tech game, there was a good mix of that. But it's always something that I'm working on, and just, you know, being fearless, like you said, to go take a shot, but also knowing when to take what they give you, which I think is extremely important as a quarterback. So that balance is always something I'm working on, and I love improving at it.
So that's it for this week's edition of the Scout Team Show. I'm Emory Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Be sure to follow me on all of my social media accounts. And don't forget to check out and subscribe to the Football Game Plan Network, located at youtube.com/footballgameplan. Also, keep it locked here on the Game Plus Network for tomorrow's show, XFL Game Day, where we bring you all of the news, notes, and tidbits around the XFL in Week 2 in the league. Also, subscribe on iTunes to Football Game Plan Podcast, where you can find our Scout Team podcast and leave us a 5-star rating.